near to dying. Oh, just
Shalom, shalom, family, and welcome to another Shabbat night. Well, not Shabbat night. Well, Shabbat night talk. Well, not Shabbat night talk, but another Bible study or another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai. I do so many shows that I lost it for a little second there. But yes, welcome everybody to another Tanakh review. Giving all honor, glory, and praise to the Most High, King of the universe, Yehudah for life, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and thanking the Most High God for all of our lives, all of us who are here this evening, this night, listening and receiving this knowledge and this wisdom. It's always a blessing to be able to sit down and gain understanding, from lessons, and to be able to take in what's being brought forth. And when you have teachers the way that I did, that I grew up with, like the one that we're about ready to listen to, is a privilege and is an honor to be able to take in these lessons and to be able to go into a deeper thought, not just the baseline or the basic understanding of what we've learned, which is important. I'm not negating that, but when we could go into deep thought, it says you meditate on this law day and night. So that means that there's going to be a thought beyond just what the surface has provided or what we learn, which is what we have to learn basically. But then we could go beyond that. It's a blessing because it keeps this thing fresh and it keeps it interesting. So when we have teachers like Nasik, Zurishaddai, Yehudah, it makes it very interesting and makes you want to come back to listen and to do this. So today we will be going over the portion Wayetzei, and without any further ado, I turn it over to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, Nasik Zurishaddai Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, and thanks for that. Astounding, introduction, accolades, more than I deserve, but I appreciate it. First of all, I'd like to give praise to the Supreme Intelligent Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. I'm through respect to the platform on the D.C.B channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Ariel being Saska, to the host Chief Uzael, to the Princes, Chief, Rabbinate, Kohanim, Maureen, brothers and sisters and visitors to the channel. I greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, and early Shabbat Shalom. And I'd like to start off with Adonai, Septai, Ditaku, Fiyagi, Tilas Deaka, O Lord, down my lips, and my mouth should declare that praise. I enjoy going over the different sidros because no matter what, every year, you tend to focus on different aspects of the sidra, and that's because sometimes it might be something prevalent in your present day that you might be able to segue the sidra to, and also you're constantly developing and enlightening. Everybody that goes over there and enlightening their eyes open up to other concepts or variations that they may not got a chance to disseminate in the past. They say, oh, now this time I'm going to remember to disseminate this particular aspect because I neglected it maybe in the past. So that's what makes it so interesting. And then, as I said, oftentimes the place I'm from originally, BINAH Zaken was just sons of the ancient Israelites. We focus a lot on the book of Genesis more than any other book. That was, for as a young man coming up, they always say, stay in Genesis. Don't go, you never get out of Genesis, never graduate from Genesis. Stay in the first 5 books, read Psalms, Proverbs, and don't mess with the prophecy and all that. That's what they used to tell me when I was a kid coming up a lot. And they didn't have to worry about me reading too much in the prophecy because I didn't understand a lot of stuff I was reading in the prophecy anyway. So it didn't make sense until I get a foundation. And even as a person that's share insights in various portions of the scripture, prophecy is really, really the hard element of disseminating in scriptures stuff for those that already was manifested. So I come from a place where we don't profess to be an expert in those particular areas of study, but we must acquaint ourselves with those different areas. The same thing when it comes to ritual observance for the Kohanim. We get pretty much a overall view of understanding as a non-Kohen in an institution that is now not in effect as of now. So we're so far removed from that particular institution of temple service that it's become a little bit more difficult to envision or share with the more contemporary readers about some of the rituals, the insights and mystics behind the observance in temple worship. So that being said, I'd like to first address one question. I believe the sister name was Rena. That asked a question in reference to the servant, the unnamed servant, that was went to get a wife for Isaac, that his prayers being answered immediately. Basically, is that a message for us of what we can learn from it? Well, one of the things I believe I pointed out was that he believed in his master, Abraham. He believed in him. And he knew what Abraham believed in. Now, he never had no personal acquaintance or revelations from the creator of heaven and earth himself. But the concept and the way the man moved, such as our father Abraham, the patriarch, that he believed in greatly, and he swore an oath to bind himself by him, that an oath that he could live by. And his master, he loved his master so much, and he was a very, he had some spirituality within himself, because he referred to the God of his master, not looking at Abraham as being a God, which is a big difference. He said the God of his master, and knowing that Abraham was dependent on somebody above himself, beyond himself. And the servant recognized that as well, that anytime a person make an oath, you got to be on a spiritual level, in that sense, and believe in the higher power. And he added qualifications. But Abraham had said, when perhaps the woman would not, want to come back. And he said, God was, if she, should he take Isaac there? He said, no, don't take my Isaac, my son there, to the land where he came from. But God will send his angel with them. So that's a brief sort of a segue into the portion I'm getting ready to get into today. So what we learned is that he prayed, the servant prayed from the depth of his soul. And the Creator tends to answer a person that prays from the very depth of their soul. And that's what the servant did at that time, after such a long journey. So we can learn one thing, that within his prayer, he didn't pray that his journey and his time not be wasted, but that he fulfills something for somebody else from the depth of his soul. That's what is so great about the prayer, that it wasn't even about him. It's about him recognizing that, do you have a love for this individual, which is my master, that love you so greatly? So that is one of the things we can learn, that people can recognize if you're a godly individual or you're about God, that from the depth of your very soul, that they may not understand the God you serve. But when people say, I'm going to pray if you got a condition or illness or whatever the case is, or situation, that they say, because it's you, and I respect you so much, and I might not understand everything about you, I'm going to pray for your well-being. And that's what we should be considerate about other people as well. So that's what we can learn. The greatest thing we can learn is about the prayer is not always about what we can gain for ourselves in life, but how well we can assist other people beyond our physical circumstances. So that's some of the things we can learn from that question. And then address the brother J. Don, and his question was in reference to the wine being, did Rivkah and Jacob brought the wine when wine wasn't mentioned, because Isaac told his son Esau to go take his bow and his quiver and go out there and fetch venison, which a deer game that he loved, and prepare it. But that would be a natural thing. You don't have food without drink. Normally today, we always say that, a blessing before, over something we drink. Mostly it's say wine. It could be grape juice, but any other liquid other than water. But people still say blessings these days over water. But so they could say a blessing over that. Because water, we didn't have any process in the water, and that's why, though people say a blessing over water, we didn't have any process in working the water out. But when it comes down to any other liquid juices and stuff or wine, it was a process that's done. And Mishteh is actually, a feast, so to speak. So you don't just bring food without something to slake your thirst. So though Isaac told Esau to get something that is not readily at hand, whereas the wine or the drink will be readily at hand in that sense. So it's not a problem. Now, whether they expect for him to get drunk, he would have to eat and be satisfied. It would have to be quite a while. And when we look at the story carefully, as I'm going to go back to that particular part, I want to focus on the blessing and the situation in that thing before I go to Wayetzei, is that it was under a time constraint. Esau's out hunting. After that, they got to process and cook the food and do what he need to do, and then bring a portion to his father. So this is, in that sense, Isaac wouldn't get impaired that quickly, that quickly in the short span of him eating and drinking at the same time. He might feel good, but wouldn't be impaired, or else the blessing would have very little value. So that's one of my views on that particular portion. So now Well, why you say? Because I know I'm not going to finish it, but I'm just going to let the readers know where it starts. It starts in the 28th chapter, 10th verse of the book of Genesis in the Masoretic text, and it's a very long, a lot of stuff going on in there, and it ends at the 32nd chapter and the 3rd verse. The end of the 3rd verse. So we'll go all the way to the 32nd chapter and the 3rd verse. So, I just want to touch on a couple of things in this area here. In the 26th chapter, I'm going to pick up from where I left off last week, as I said. Pick it up from the 26th verse. 26th chapter, 34th verse, excuse me. And when Esau was 40 years old, he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beeri, the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite. And they were a bitterness of spirit unto Isaac and to Rebekah. So he went and got his wife at the age his father got married. People say he didn't consult anyone. And that he just moved reckless. That could be, you could argue on both sides of that, because if you got a wife, you didn't ask nobody to get you a wife. Your father just went and got a wife. And sometimes, more often than not, most people, parents arrange marriages because they want you to marry into a certain status more so. So, being you dwell in the land, this is the land of Esau's nativity. My grandfather's friends with people. He has someone, we don't even know where Keturah come from. We know where Hagar come from. And we know that going all that distance to get a wife on the other side, well, it could be a rationale. I'm just saying, it could be a rationale. If my grandfather was told to leave, why should I even though my mother come from that area, why should I go back and way over there to get a wife? It just didn't seem reasonable to him. And we dwell in closer to this particular group of people. So this is some of the things that could be, discussed and amongst your teachers and from both sides, and then say what you think about it. But in any event, and when they say it is bitter, it say, what was their habits? What was about them? Now, there's a lot of midrashic things concerning it. I don't want to go into it. But if this was such a bad thing, then why not tell your son, since both y'all in agreement on that? Whereas it's ironic, they both was in agreement concerning Esau's wives, but they wasn't in agreement of the shared love for their children. That's something to bring out as you go forward. But I wanted to bring that out there. And it says in the 27th chapter, and it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, so he could not see, he called Esau his eldest son and said unto him, my son. And he said unto him, here am I. All right. You don't usually use the term firstborn. The writer don't use the term firstborn because we read that Esau had sold his the firstborn right of the firstborn. We read that already. Also, when we look before we go further, when it said Isaac can see, it's a lot. They use an unusual word in the Hebrew there, and you might want to go into it and look into the word, which is really different from the word that we call which is Ayin Wah Resh. That's the root of it, and that means to be blind. Whereas this don't mean that I'm totally cannot see, and he used different terms. When they talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, when the angels that struck the people that young and old that went by the door, they use a different word there, but it means something like a blinding light. In other words, almost like somebody get a flash and you can't see for a moment. When they couldn't find the opening, of the house, the door. They weren't trying to tear down the house; they were trying to open the door. So that's a different word that's used there. The word that I just shared with you is used when they talk about a Kohen that's blind, and that's in the book of Leviticus, the 21st chapter. So with Jacob later on, we read, he used the word, kaveh, kivdu, which is, heavy eyes. So that means that his condition with eyes was a little slightly different than this would describe as Isaac. So Isaac is the first person as an individual that had this kind of element. And when we look back in the patriarchs, and I'm just to bring this out, that each of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, had a different element, and different situation in life, where Abraham is the first one that referred to as an old individual in the scriptures. You figure Noah's still around, but Noah was not called old. Shem is still around. He's not called old. And yet Abraham is called old, an old individual. First one we read about. So that's a quality. There's a whole story behind that, but I don't want to go into that now. Then now you got the next generation, Isaac. He's old, like his father, but now he got another condition, a condition about sight. Now, is it, and we know it had to be a physical sight, but beyond sight, his perception could perception been lost as well? That's why, hence the word itself means a little different. That's used later on for Jacob. So he had two situations. He is old and had sight problem. With Jacob, our father Jacob, when we get to him at the end, he had three conditions. Being the third patriarch, he was old. He had a sight problem, and plus he got sick. So each thing was different for each one of the patriarchs. That's just something to think of. And the terms that's used for the sight is only affecting two of them. But the term that's used for old affects all three of them. All right. So this and when he gets this the sick, Jacob had something that neither one of them encountered, that neither his father or his grandfather encountered, being sick. Sick of what? Sick how? So these are some of the things we tend to look at and wonder about the situations that go beyond afterwards, and usually at the waning part of their life. Now, when we get to the second verse of this 27th chapter, I'm going to try to run through this here. Well, go expeditiously as possible. In the second verse, he said, "Behold, now I am old. I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out in the field and take me venison, and make me savory food, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die." And Rebekah heard when Isaac spoke to Esau his son. And Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it. All right, now I'm gonna stop here if I get to the 6th verse. We're gonna find that Rebecca is hearing a lot of things. In my time, not being disparaging on our great mother, the matriarch Rebecca, but you notice she hears a lot. She heard about what's going on with the children in the womb. She heard about the blessing. She hear about the situations going on happening within Esau's heart. So um, in my time, we used to call people an ear hustler. Because man, check this out. This is what I heard, man. I heard. Let me hear you. Let me tell you what I heard lately. Let me tell you what I heard lately. And I know every one of us knows people that might be what we call my time an ear hustler. You got to get the news, the lowdown on certain things. And today it makes it kind of more strange in the sense that you got bugs, and I ain't talking about the creeping critters. I'm talking about with people who will say, I want to hear what's going on over here. I want to amp up this here. I want to understand this. So, and even with the translators and stuff like that, it's not just being used to translate, but I need to know what them people saying over there. Let me tune it up for Spanish. Let me tune it up for French. Let me turn it up for Hebrew. Let me turn it up for Arabic and stuff like that nature. So this is, you can say, well, it could go out of hand. It was, and was it necessary for her to really be worried about this in the first place? Being it was a prophecy, as I spoke on before. And I'm going to move a little further from the 6th verse. And Rebekah spoke unto Jacob, her son, saying, Behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison and make savory food that I may eat. Bless thee before the Lord, before my death. Now therefore, my son, hearken to my voice, according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goat. I don't know what you need 2, but anyway, and I will make thee savory food for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, so that he may bless thee before his death. And Jacob said unto Rebekah his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will feel me, and I was seen to him as a marker. And I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. And the mother said unto him, Upon me be thy curse, my son. Only hearken to my voice, and go fetch me them. And he went and fetched and brought them to his mother. And his mother made savory food such as his father loved. And Rebekah took the choicest garments of Esau, her eldest son, which were with her in the house, and put them upon Jacob, her younger son. Before I go to the 16th verse, that is a real heart-wrenching thing. That now, when we look at it, it's not just a plot against the father, which is Isaac, but it's also a plot against Esau as well. And you say, wow, this is what our mother, the matriarch, did? Now, she had, in order to be a matriarch, she had to have a lot of good values. And she believed she's doing the right thing. She believes she's working in the, to make sure that she's doing the will of God. But when you actually analyze and look at that, you say, wow, not only is now Jacob will be covered in blessing, as I'm gonna come back to later, but we find that he has his brother's clothes. that he entrusted into his mother's house, his mother's parents' care. And these are grown men, but he entrusted certain clothes in his parents' care. And she put that on him. How was Jacob dressed anyway? If eyes is kind of dim, what difference really would the clothes make? You got to ask all these questions. So the thing is that, and my idea is I try to avoid the normal stereotype of tradition when they talk about what's going on in this area here. And then a lot of times it's hard for a lot of people to come to grips with the stereotype that's being portrayed here. But if you are saying, I'm trying to be a godly individual, then we read the Psalm, you know what I mean? Who could be in your holy mountain? He that have clean hands and a pure heart. All right. So whoever stand before your holy mountain, he that have clean hand and pure heart, we got to say, well, what's going on here? Is this really a good thing? Even though it's meant to be a good thing. I remember the old folks who say, well, I grew up in that same era, that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That's a saying I heard coming up. And I'm sure many people that listen to this heard that before. So after that, Jacob goes on further. All right, and I mean, after that, and Rebecca took the choice. Okay, I read that. 17th verse. And she gave the savory fruit and bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. All right. And he came to his father and said, my father. And he said, here am I. Who art thou, my son? All right. All right. So this question is very important. If you was a judge or investigator, and like I say, you got to ask about those questions. And it's important before I get into the next portion of the story, because you have what they call karma. All right. Now we know automatically Jacob knew it was wrong. He knew it was different. And like I said before, my mother is desperate. I'm going to do what she say. And I'm going to deceive my father. And if anything turn out bad, well, she's going to take the weight for it. Because she sent me. So she's going to take the weight. I ain't going to take the weight. And you're going to say, well, you read how much Rebecca loved and stated that she loved Yaakov. All right. But Yaakov is not showing that same love back. Where we read, Isaac had a reason to love. He was given a reason they love Esau. And Esau, when you go hunting, you're risking your life. So that's how love that you have for your father. And they're going to go even further in that sense. All right, so I'm going to skip down just a little bit because I know it's quite a bit. All right, but anyway, one of the questions before I want to address here in this 18th verse, Isaac said, after Jacob said, here am I. And the question is, who art thou, my son? So Isaac expected a son. He recognized somewhat the sound of a voice. All right. So Isaac guessing at his son. So how bad his vision is, hard to tell. But usually if a person is in a tent or anything like that, they mostly have a dark setting, where we talk about candlelight dinners and all that. So if you can envision something to that effect. But I just want to try to, extrapolate as much truth as I can from the scriptures that's actually that the scripture actually states here within the wording. And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. All right. Now, the word game is important. I bring it out a lot because we didn't have commas and semicolons and periods, and then tonation makes a difference. Like me and my son were sharing different things about phrases, and I said we're discussing about words and time and the semantical change of words and what it means in different time frame. So he used the example when we say it's Abba. So when I say the girl is hot, a person that's just learning language or a foreigner may not know that. I mean, the girl is fine. I said, yeah, I'm a baby boomer. I know what y'all mean when y'all say the girl is hot. I said, but us baby boomers, when we say the girl is hot, that means that you stay away from her. That's what it meant for us, that you stay away from her. And I was saying, and those that's online would know what I mean when I say you stay away from her. So most people close to my age bracket never could say a female is hot. That's a different generation that says the female is hot. But and guys that come up in my area, close to my age bracket, never would say that and mean it in a positive light. And we said something like that, that was in a negative light. So now tonation, and to a foreigner, it means that she's burning up. So when you look at this here, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it now, but I would say the wording that Yaakov used was deceptive, and there's a difference between deception and outright lying, because you can make people believe something is better by how you present it without telling any falsehood to it. He just made a sell. They call it sell pitching these days. And the person believing, this I got this, I got that, I got a super bargain price, whatever the case is. So, or like I said before, which I learned from a young lady, that when people, when I was discussing the same subject matter, that they were selling, I think, flour or sugar that supposed to weigh, I think, 5 pounds, whatever, in a country, and they found out it was less than 5 pounds. And I said, but the bag is marked 5 pounds, so they believed they was getting what they, what they was getting. That's why diverse waste, the God don't like, because it's deceptive, because it appeared that it's there. They're in the same bag that could technically hold 5 pounds, but all the times it may not be 5 pounds in the bag. So, so that's why you got monitors these days about certain things. It's like potato chips. In a bag of potato chips, you say, and tell you how much it weigh, and you look and say, well, how come this bag seems to have more potato chips than that bag? And it feels a little different. And that's just something simple as a bag of potato chips. But let me go on just a little bit further. And plus, we know it's difficult to get the exact measurement when you get certain items in a bag. But we goes down to say, and the 20th, and Isaac said, in the 20th verse of the same chapter, Isaac said unto his son, how is it that I found thee quickly, my son? And he said, because the Lord thy God sent me good speed. And Isaac said unto Jacob, come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not. So now the question is not that he's not a son. The question is, are you the one that I'm looking to bless? That became the question. So the son area, he accepted that. But are you the one I'm really going to get ready to bless? So he had his doubts. And I spoke more about it in the past, which I'm not going to do this time. But he had his doubts in reference to, this being Esau or not. And then Jacob used the tetragrammaton, which is interesting. Not that they didn't know of the tetragrammaton, but it stated what God was known by to Moses. And also, when God introduced himself to Isaac, he used El Shaddai, which is unique. So this is one of the things that to consider. And Jacob went near unto Isaac and his father, and he felt him, and said, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he discerned him not, because his hands was hairy, as his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him, and he said, now what blessing he said there? He said he blessed him, and he said, what follows? Art thou my very son, Esau? And he said, I am. So now we read, so he blessed him. Isaac blessed him with what? What he did then? Confirm what? That's something that's, you might want to probe into. And he still asked the question. All right, because he said the hands is Esau. All right. And he said, I am. He asked the question. If you his hands were hairy as his brother Esau's hand, so he blessed him. Why would you bless him and then still ask again? The word went out. What was that blessing? What was it that he said? And then 25th verse. And he said, bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison. And my soul shall bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said unto him, come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said. Now, this is the first time we read what is being said in the blessing. But one of the things is that he blessed him, like I answered the brother in Chicago. If we pay close attention to the order here, we can find out that there wouldn't be no intoxication going on. The wine wouldn't be, even an issue at this point in time. From the order that we read in this particular portion, that's why I wanted to make sure I read this here and clear it up before going to the next portion. And it said, and I said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of the field, which the Lord hath blessed. So God give thee of the dew of heaven, and of the fat places of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow to thee. Cursed be everyone that curses thee, and blessed be everyone that blesses thee. Now, Rivkah only had 2 children. Why do he say his mother's sons. Perhaps she might get remarried again. That is your mother. Anybody that she have after that. Because we know that Laban had blessed Rivkah when she went to get Isaac. And when y'all, and I'm not to go back, but y'all could compare the blessings that Laban had blessed Rebekah with, going into the land of of Canaan. All right, so on the way back with the servant. So it is that just in case she have any other children, I don't know, but whether I'm gonna outlive her or she gonna outlive me. Being most likely she's younger than him. So this is something you could discuss further. And it goes on to say, let me get back to here. Cursed be everyone that curses thee, and blessed be everyone that blesses thee. Well, that's a blessing for any of the descendants of Abraham. All right, in that sense. All right, so now, but that's not the blessing of Abraham. And then, if you smell like the field that the Lord had blessed, then why further talking about ample, blessings on the field? Because sometimes the field may be blessed this year, but because your actions, it may not be producing the same the next year. But you're going to enter into a land where everything is blessed for you. The field it's going to be all right. Can you maintain that level of integrity, spirituality, and righteousness for the land not to suffer and to maintain to be all right? This is something that we got to think about, because his father had experience in a famine. He had experience of famine. And yet the blessing is going to be for the land, the actual land that was promised to Abraham's descendants. And I'm just going to read this little part here, and I'm going to skip over a little bit. All right, so we know Esau came back soon after, and Jacob was scarcely gone. All right, and first thing he say, because he had made the food and everything like that there. His first quote in the middle of the 31st verse of the same chapter. Let my father arise and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac, his father, said unto him, Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. All right, so first of all, he had performed everything, and he came back straight out. I did what you said, so I'm coming back for the blessing. From my father, a blessing. Because I did what you said, and you the one told me, do this so I could get a blessing. It wasn't me going on out looking for a blessing. It was your idea to send me out to do this to get a blessing. So we got to, keep that in mind as we go forward. And it goes on to say, and Isaac trembled very exceedingly and said, Who then is he that had taken venison and brought it to me, and I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him? Yea, and he shall be blessed. In other words, I can't take back my word. I said that. So who is he? And then this is what I got to finish this out. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceeding great and bitter cry. And he said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, Thy brother came with guile, and have taken away thy blessing. So Isaac acknowledged who it was. It was Jacob. But when you say that, it's just, who is he that came? Isaac realized who it was, and had admitted that his brother came, you know, and got the blessing. He had blessed his brother. So that's something. So in that sense, that was and it said, and taken away thy blessing. But the blessing was supposed to be for you, but he taken it away. And he said, it's not the, he rightly named Jacob, for he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. All right, so I let you know right there, birthright and blessings, 2 different institutions. And that make it clear here, and it was understood there. So, and you know, and I explained it last time, so I won't go back over that. And he said, hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? That's kind of strange. When I thought it was you, so I gave what I had to give you. That was saving one. That's like saying, all right, I got to rewrite another episode for Esau because I thought it was Esau the first time. So this is one of the unique things that we find here. And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants. And with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what then shall I do for thee, my son? Talking as much compassionate as possible, but letting them know that I did all this ahead of time, thinking it was you. But I wanted you to have this, because this would be more for your character. Not what I have laid up later, but more for your character. This is what I wanted to do for you. And he said, what more could I do for you? I mean, I can't supersede it. So, and Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Said, that's the only blessing. You only got one blessing that's in your arsenal. It's nothing else you could say. That's the desperation. Now, I want to bring this point out. A blessing is spiritual. Spiritual. It ain't about I can't get you can't get, you don't have no other income, no other produce and stuff I could get. No. They're saying it's about my future, a blessing on my very spiritual being. So when people think of Esau not being spiritual in that sense, then you say, well, why would he just settle for a blessing? I would settle for the property. I don't know if this is going to come true or not, which we're going to find later on in a little bit. But this is one of the things that, that's why I wanted to focus on the blessing and last time, because there was just so much in there. And that's why I'm not going to be able to finish everything on Wayetzei, but I'm going to touch on some key points in Wayetzei. And it said, my blessing, bless me, my father, also, and lifted his wealth and wept. Okay, 39th verse. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, of the fat places of the earth shall be thy dwelling, and of the dew of heaven from above, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and thou shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt break loose, that thou shalt shake his yoke from off thy neck. All right, so right then and there saying, all right, since I had to try to make some kind of righteous amendment, Jacob, his descendants, will stay in charge as long they stay close to the charge that God had for them to do. The minute we step away from the charge that God had charged us with to do, then adversaries could come in. So Esau's going to still enjoy other stuff, but he got to go out and get it from a different perspective, from a physical level, And it talked about the sword, and when we wanted to pass through Esau's lane, he said, "No, I'm gonna come out with the sword." In other words, I'm gonna use the blessing that I got from my father. That's the descendants of Esau. So, and in 41st verse, and Esau hated Jacob because the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And so I want to point that out. Not because of the birthright. He didn't hate him for that. It makes it clear here the blessing from which his father blessed him, because he acknowledged and didn't renege concerning the blessed birthright. It was the blessing, that spiritual side, that he was denied. And Esau said in his heart, "Let the days of mourning for my father be at hand, then I will slay my brother Jacob." And the words of Esau, her eldest son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, "Behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, does comfort himself, proposing to kill thee. Now therefore, my son, hearken to my voice and arise, flee unto Laban, my brother, to Haran, and tarry with him a few days, until thy brother's fury turn away, until thy brother's anger turn away from thee, and he forget that which thou hast done to him." Jacob did this to him at the behest of his mother. "Then I will send and fetch thee from thence. Why should I be bereaved of you both in one day?" I read that because it's very important. Is that we already know that Jacob get the blessing of Abraham in the next chapter, and I'm skip past that. Skip past that. But I wanted to focus on that particular detail, because Esau is the first individual to say, "I'm hot, I'm upset, I really want to go ballistics, but I'm cooled out because day for my father's mourning is at hand." And he considered his father, instead, and not saying, "Well, my mother gonna die too." No. Could it be that he realized that his mother was part of the plot? Because he only considered the death of the father and then say, "I'm a slave." And Rebekah assuming that she's going to live beyond Isaac. So she assuming already, "I'm going to live beyond Isaac," which in essence, none of the matriarchs actually outlived the patriarchs. But she believed that I need to let this anger cool down from Esau, her son. She couldn't pacify him because she was part of the problem. Esau himself, whatever way he found out, there's a lot of stuff behind it, but I'm just saying, whatever way he found out, I want to point out these different things here, because I always like to pursue, justice within the Tanakh. And whatever way he might have found out, they would say, "My mother had something to do with this." And whatever the case is, that he didn't take offense against his mother. He didn't say, "I'm gonna do this to his mother. I'm only focusing on my brother." And could it be because my brother respected our mother, but had very little respect, not only for my father, but for me as well? He wasn't honorable at all. So therefore, I'm only concerned about my father, who haven't dishonored me at all, who never mistreated me at all. That I'm going to wait till he died, and then I will slay Jacob. How would mom feel about it? We can always discuss that amongst your teachers and various teachers and everything like that. But he put off his feelings on behalf of somebody else's feelings. and how it would be. So this is one of the things I'd like to bring out in that particular story. In the last part, in that particular part, closing out in that area before I go to the next portion, is that the term that's used. So we know Isaac blessed Jacob on his way out, and we find out that and charged him, gave him orders what to do and where to get a wife. It's the first time it's a charge about who you should marry. And that's coming from Jacob, our father Isaac, and Rivka's there as well. And the 3rd verse of the 20th chapter, and God Almighty bless thee and make thee fruitful and multiply thee, that thou mayest be a congregation of people, and give thee the blessing of Abraham to thee, and to thy seed with thee, that thou mayest inherit the land of thy sojourners, which God gave unto Abraham. That is the blessing that had to be passed down. All right. And that would have been the right of a firstborn. And Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went unto Padan Aram, unto Laban, son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob, and Esau's mother. Now Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padan Aram to take a wife from thence. And that as he blessed him, he gave him a charge, saying, thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob hearkened unto his father and his mother, and is going to Padan Aram. And Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan pleased not Isaac his father. So Esau went unto Ishmael and took unto the wives that he had, Machlah, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife. That's how that particular portion ends there. As we go further, I'm going to read a little bit here, and I'm only going to get probably a chapter and a half, a part in there. And so this now is Wayetzei, and I will come back to some of the stuff I talked about. And Jacob went out to Beersheba and went towards Hakaram, and he lighted upon a place and tarried there all night. And because the sun was set, and he took one of the stones in the place and put it on his head and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up upon the earth. And the top of it reached to heaven, and the angels of God ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood beside him and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land wherein thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth. And thou shalt spread abroad to the west, to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in thee, and in thy seed, shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And behold, I am with thee, and I will keep thee whithersoever thou goest. And I will bring thee back into this land, but I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee. And Jacob awaked out of his sleep, and he said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid, and he said, how full of awe is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. Sha'ar Shemayim, that's the gates of heaven. And Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone and put it on his head and set up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel. But the name of the city was Luz at the first. Very important point to remember. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, till I come back to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God, and this stone which I have set up for a pillar shall be God's house, and all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the tenth unto thee. So that's how we get the term types at this particular point. There's a forefather came up with types. I'm just highlight a thing about the dream. The dream of Jacob's ladder. That's the most popular thing in churches and a lot of synagogues to talk about this particular dream. Now, what we find here is that Jacob is the first patriarch to actually have a dream. You know, Abraham had an epiphany. We don't read, but Isaac had a dream. So he's the first patriarch to have a dream in the book, and he dreamed of a ladder or stairway. It depends on how you want to interpret the Shalom. That's going from earth to heaven, angels going up from earth to heaven, and then angels coming down. So what we find here is that when you look at the wording carefully, the ladder was like, it didn't just start from the earth. It was set up on the earth. And yet, you say, okay, so you think about the Creator reaching down or spirituality coming down, and you assessing the spirituality going up. But out of all the dreams in scriptures, every dream that we read about in scriptures throughout the Tanakh, just the only dream that doesn't has an interpretation is given in scripture. All the interpretation that we come about within the dreams are actually one that people conjecturalize and come up with over a period of time. So all other dreams that we read about, clear cut, interpretation, understandings there. But this particular dream, it doesn't. But that don't stop people from coming up with different interpretations. And so I always like to use of something I learned, many years ago, when it talk about Jacob, people would be like the dust of the earth. And I always say we got different signs for people as far as the children of Israel or the descendants of Abraham being false multitude, as allegorical, signed by different metaphors. Call them stars for multitude, sands of the sea, and now finally the dust of the earth. And I always share this here from time to time, usually in a split second when I got just a short time to say something in different venues, is that a star, you can't count it for multitude, but yet when you look at the stars, each one is bright, each one flicker, each one has its own light, but not one star touches another. Not one star can actually communicate or cluster with one another. Even when we talk about the Milky Way galaxy, each star is separate. And yet, when we talk about sand, more so alluded to the second patriarch, Isaac, that for a multitude, sands, you could squeeze them together. You can't count their numbers, just a handful. And it looked like they're together. But the minute you open up your hand or any kind of breeze, they separate. That is the weakness of sand. So where sometimes people might, like the stars, I got to shine for myself. I got to have my own light. I can't share my light with anybody else. The other one, we act like we're together, but we're really not together. We just say we're together, but we're not together. But the humbleness is the dust. The dust itself. The dust itself, one, is a particle you can't get rid of. It's a particle that's overlooked. It's a particle that clings to everything. It's a particle that keeps reappearing when you think it disappeared. It's a particle that it don't care about how big the dust ball get, because it don't feel inferior. It feel more, superior if all the dust get together and gather, into one place. Think about that. They gather together in one place. And yet, man was made of the dust of the ground. And one of the things is that it's the humbleness, leaving away all the ego, leaving away all the I identity itself. that makes you strong, where you can become united as one. So when we think about the dust itself, we think about in that particular area there, that the actual dust, everybody look at it, try to get rid of it, but it still reappears. Everybody steps on dust, but dust covers everything that walked upon it. And that's just the saga of Israel. And that's one of the lessons I like to keep in mind when I envision the ladder that Jacob had. Now, we know about angels. Also, another thing, like most people might bring out in the book, that this particular portion starts with angels and it ends with angels, but more so that Jacob dealt with angels more than any other patriarch in the book, and was more involved in his life, had more hands-on in his life than any other patriarch in the book. So that makes him a unique individual in that sense. I'm just going to read just a little bit more for in this here, and then I have to pick it up for next week because it's very long. But I'm not going to read all the details next week about the issues that goes on. I'm going to skip quite a bit, but and I'm not going to read about all the tribes next week too. But one of the things in this here particular area, I'm going to tell you what's in here so you can get it. If you have questions, you can bring it up ahead of time. But talking about Jacob's vision, that's what it starts off with, and the promise. And then Jacob's married Leah and Rachel. And it goes on to Leah bear 4 sons. And then it goes on to Jacob and his other sons and a daughter. And then Jacob outwits Laban. Then Jacob flees from Laban. And Laban and Jacob make a covenant of peace. And Jacob and Laban part as friends. So I just want to let you know that's the whole thing. So it's just too much. But I'm only going to highlight certain points in there. So we know he goes over to the place at Bethel. And when he gets after he marked the spot, before he goes there, he makes a compact, a vow to the Creator, and said, "If you give me food to eat, clothes to wear, and bring me back to my father's house in peace, then you'll be my God." Is that saying that God is not his God then? And then in a dream, why would he say that? Because when God already told him that I'm not going to be with you until the end. You go and I'm going to be with you over there, and I'm going to be with you when you come back. And Jacob, why would he make a vow? Because, like I often say, dreams is not always clear. You don't know if the dream's going to be manifested fully in the way you dreamt it. So so therefore, I need to understand that, did I really get the right word and really got an encounter with the God of my forefathers directly? So therefore, I must take upon myself to make this particular vow, just the bare necessities. I don't need to know anything else. And then one of the things we learn in this particular portion here, which I'm pretty much going to stop here because I don't want to get into when you meet the wife, but I will speak on that more in depth next week as we go into the next portion. But one of the things I like to say is that this is the first time that Jacob himself is actually going to take responsibility for things in life. He's going to be a responsible individual. Prior reading about Yaakov, our father Jacob, we don't find him as pretty much a responsible individual. We don't find him too much as a laudable individual. But from this encounter with the Creator now, Jacob now is ready to accept full responsibility for his actions. His responsibility depended on everybody else. Everybody else, everybody else. I got to get something from this. I got to get something from that. I got to get something from Esau. I got to get something from my father. I got to get some, not only that, I'm taking advice from my mother. So all this here, got to get a blessing. So it's always about all this stuff about what I need to get. And it's other people, actually taking responsibility in every aspect. Esau took responsibility when he swore. The mother taking responsibility for action that, he going to do. The father taking responsibility to say, yeah, I blessed him. And I'm letting you know what I really blessed him with. And also, I really can do the same with you as I did with him. And he got to believe. And then also, it's a key word that's used there. When, Yami Akadim, a few days. Rivka said, you go over there for a while till Esau calm down, and I'll send for you. But the same term, a few days, is the same word that's used when he worked for Raquel, his wife, for 7 years. And it said it seemed like a few days. How do a few days turn out to be years? So it's a lot of other episodes that I need to bring out in particular things. So I'm just going to stop here at the Shalom and the opening of Wayetzei, because the next episode, and then I'm going to skip over in between, but the next episode as we go into the next Sidra, I'm going to be focusing on the actual relationship between Laban, Jacob, and his marriages. And then I'm going to go to the concluding portions of that. But there's a lot of information that's in here in this particular portion, and throughout the book of Genesis. And it's easier for me if I just say I'm just going to talk about one aspect of it. But it's like, you got to touch on this part here in the chronological stating, because it helps give you a good foundation for the future. So I hope you got something out of what I said. Any mistakes have been my own, and I'm going to read everybody else. Shalom Aleichem and a good Shabbat, early Shabbat.
Quick question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Quick question. In terms of Jacob, when he went to Laban and he made the final deal in terms of the flock, right? The goat and the sheep. So initially when he told Laban, he said, all right, I'm going to take the speckle and the streak from the goat, and I'm going to take the dark from the sheep, right? So when he initially separated the flocks, right? He initially took the flock from Laban's flock, and he put a 3 days journey distance between his and Laban's. Wasn't everything else that he did after that almost like a form of like getting over? Because wasn't that the initial deal?
All right, who's trying to get over? Laban?
Jacob. Because they said he took from the strong of Laban's, and whenever he saw the strongs, he put the thing in the trough with water so that they could look at it when they conceived, and then that way they will come out speckled and streak and dark also from the strong ones. I thought the deal was initially what he separated, and then everything that whatever he separated initially, whatever produced from there, that would have been what he would have gotten off the bat, and not nothing else that came out of Laban's.
Laban left him with solid colors. He made sure he took all of them that was already there, that was street. And he was shown in a dream. Jacob was shown in a dream by an angel, and said, and look at the, who's going up on, the type of sheep that's going on in others. So that's why he went to that, cutting up a bog, putting it in a trough of water and everything like that, because he didn't have it. And if you read, and when you look at it carefully, it says those that came out after that, because Laban had already said, okay, that we're looking for, that's not popular over here. We don't get those guys yet.
Yeah, because those are recessive genes in animals, right?
Right. Yeah. So I'm gonna take these that's already strike and streak, as well as the solid ones, and leave you only solid ones, and you work with that. So that's why I said 3 days, because we both nomadic, we traveling around the neighborhood, but I want to make sure that nothing slipped through.
Gotcha.
So Laban seen the deal more so in his favor, and that's why Yaakov went, even because it's like a dream. He was told what was going to happen, right? But Laban taking what he could see now.
Right.
Jacob is left with what he could see now.
Right.
So that's why Jacob went to implement what he hopefully would have a mental impregnation upon him.
Right. Did you touch on the question that I asked you earlier?
No, I don't think I did. Well,
so the question is, just to refresh your memory, do you feel like Jacob's response to Laban when he said, "Whoever you find those idols with"?
I didn't get to that part. That's why.
You get to that part. All right, so we're gonna leave it till next week.
But I can answer that now, though. Because
you sure? All right. So
yeah, because most likely I'm not going to touch on that next week anyway.
So
when I conclude it.
So when Jacob tells Laban, when Laban runs down on him after Jacob runs away with his family, they run away from Laban. And Laban said, "You took my idols. Somebody here took my idols." And Jacob said, "Whoever you find them with, let them die. Basically, let them be put to death." So later we see that Raquel is the one that was hiding the idols, right? And when her father came to her tent, said, "Forgive me, Father, I can't get up because the monthly, cycle is upon me, things that come upon women." And but she was hiding her head. She was sitting on that. She buried them and was sitting on them. Do you feel like Jacob's words in a funny way testified against him and his wife, and she lost her life because of what he said?
Yes, and I believe that because Jacob, is a spiritual man now. He's a different individual now, in that sense, even a curse and people's very spiritual, and the words of a individual saying certain things. It depends on who you're saying about, and if you're in better standard than the individual saying about, should happen. So we think about Moses having the power of the spoken word in a lot of things, but the patriarchs had a lot of power in the spoken words in that sense, even with their flaws. So in that sense, I'll be inclined to agree with the majority of people that say that it was Jacob's words that caused that. But one of the things I find troubling with that, but even though I wasn't going to speak on it next week, is that a person that stole items, is that worthy of death? So you got to ask that question. That was that worthy of death? Whereas, Laban was about to ready to kill him if God didn't step in.
Got you. Hallelujah. Torah by Nasik. Thank you all for tuning in. Praying that the Most High God, creator of heaven and earth, will continue to bless each and every one of you. Shalom, shalom, everyone. And everyone, please have a great day. Hallelujah. Shalom.
Hallelujah.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the